Talking here, and as you can see from the title, me and my group are going to talk about architecture in UK. Architecture is about designing physical structures which creating functional and beautiful or aesthetical spaces. Well, I think we all agree that UK architectures are beautiful and functional. There are two factors that influence the UK architecture. The first one is the country's history and geography that are bringing diversity traditions. The second factor is innovation in design. Their architectural innovation is really related with the look, function, and energy efficiency when constructed a building in every period of time. It's starting from the prehistoric era that showed prehistoric style and changed to the Roman style, to medieval style until the modern style. Okay, now let's talk about the first style, prehistoric architecture. The earliest forms of architecture in the UK date back to the prehistoric era or the time before written records around 3700 BC until before 43 AD. Architecture anthropology argued that humans at this time were the first to gradually define and structure their surroundings in order to create spaces that allowed them to better understand the world in their place in it. Prehistoric architecture includes stone circles, burial chambers, and hinges, which are primarily found in Stonehenge, England. Archaeologists believe it was constructed from 3000 BC until 2000 BC. The team of academics investigated and concluded Stonehenge was creating to chart the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. Some of archaeologists believe that Stonehenge was used as a site of worship, a final resting place, also memorial that created to honor someone. Until now, there is no definite statement for what this building was built for. However, nowadays Stonehenge was used for tourist destination, sometimes for formal ceremonies before tourists arrive. Second, Roman architecture. The Roman conquest of Britain in 43 AD, it introduced new architectural styles such as villas, bathhouse, and amphitheater. This kind of building is constructed to stating the power of Romance. All the public works of this architecture show the way emperors celebrated their status and reputation. The UK architecture example is the Roman Bath in the center of Bath, England. Constructed around 70 AD, it's a big building with bath that naturally heated, changing room, hot and cold room, and also toilet. Used as a grand bathing and socializing complex, it have 3 entrances for men, women, and slaves. It's accessible for rich, poor Roman people. The other one is London's Roman Amphitheater. It is open-air venue used for entertainment such as animal fight, public execution, gladiatorial combat, which attract huge audience. It was built in 70 AD, which it is capacity up to 6,000 people. Now it's used as a museum for interactive and educational attraction in learning history of Roman London. That's all about prehistoric and Roman architecture. Let's move on to the next one, medieval architecture.
Hello, I'm ANISATUS and I will continue to explain the next architecture styles that are medieval architecture, Tudor architecture, and Stuart architecture.
Next is medieval architecture. England's medieval architects wanted to reflect the country's vast history. From spectacular cathedrals to massive fortifications, the area is home to hundreds of outstanding medieval structures that provide a glimpse into what it was like to reside and serve in the area from the 11th to 15th centuries. When discussing the genre of medieval architecture, medieval buildings can be split into 3 categories: The Middle Ages architecture types include military, religious, and civic architecture. The main styles used in Middle Ages architecture are pre-Romanesque, Romanesque, and Gothic. The example of medieval architecture buildings in the UK include Westminster Abbey, Canterbury Cathedral, and Durham Cathedral. The next style is Tudor architecture. Tudor architecture is an extension of the Tudor homes found in England during the 15th and 16th centuries. Most common design feature of Tudor-style homes is the half-timber detailing. Many Tudor homes were constructed entirely out of red tone brick, which eliminated some of that two-tone detailing that is characteristic of original Tudor architecture in England. The brick detailing is generally very ornate around windows, chimneys, and entryways. One of the examples of Tudor architecture building is Hampton Court Palace. The next one is Stuart architecture. Stuart architecture is associated with the reign of the British House of Stuart, that is from late 16th century to the mid-18th century. Although the Stuart period included a number of specific stylistic movements, such as Jacobean, Carolean, Restoration, William and Mary, and Queen Anne, there are certain common characteristics that can be said to describe Stuart style. The English artists of the period were influenced by the heavy German and Flemish Baroque, but gradually gave way to the academic compromise inspired by Italian Palladianism. One of the examples of the Stuart architecture buildings is the Banqueting House at Whitehall.
So now let's continue to the next architecture styles. Udi, can you tell me what are the next styles?
Okay, so for the next architecture styles, I'm gonna be walking you through three major of architecture styles in the UK. First, we have Georgian architecture styles, we have Victorians, and also Edwardians. First, let me tell you about Georgian architecture style. Based on its name, Georgian architecture is named after the King George monarch of England, and historically, this style was built to provide a more generous sense of space and natural light that had been missing from the earlier architecture styles. Georgian in most country house focus in having a little bit of ornamentations, a little bit of detail, yet the overall forms of the main mass is relatively simple yet elegant. This typical house is commonly built of stucco, stone, but majorly brick walls. So all of these features, mainly they keep it simple and rather refined. One of the most perfect examples of this style will be the Royal Crescent in Bath. It is typically a row of 30 terrace houses arranged in a sweeping crescent shape, which is what makes this building unique and iconic. Another examples we have, you're probably familiar with this place if you watched the Queen series on Netflix, Buckingham Palace. This was done by a London architect called John Nash, and also as a shining examples of new classical Georgian style and its functions also as an official residence of British monarch in London. Moving on to the next architecture styles, Victorian architectures. Coming of the age of the Queen Victorians from the middle of 19th centuries, these styles was incorporating variety shapes of architecture styles across the British Empire. As for this era, there were lots of complex motifs of sculptures for furnishings, oversized ornaments that bring out sense of romantic, warm, as much as dramatic feeling. And also, the Gothic revival is making a comeback in this era, partly because it symbolized the traditional identity of Christians and thus became the most preferred style for churches in the UK. One of the most famous Victorian buildings in UK would be the Houses of Parliament in London. One of the best stunning examples of Gothic revival style, which features a massive clock towers, which all we knew as Big Ben. which is the most iconic symbol of London until now on. Moving on to the next architecture styles, Edwardian architecture. As the name of this style, Edwardian was named after the King Edward VII, which there are lots of major transitions in terms of its features compared to previous style, Victorian, which is more of a complex and heavy ornaments. The Edwardian, however, more of a less ornaments and details, since the main goal is more like a Georgian styles, which they keep it rather simple.
Hello, I'm M.Hum and I'll continue to the last style, which is the modern style. Rejecting ornament and embracing minimalism, that is what modernism is. Modernism became the single most important new style or philosophy of architecture and design of the 20th century. It was associated with an analytical approach to the function of buildings, a strictly rational use of materials, structural innovation, and the elimination of ornaments. This style was characterized by simplicity, functionality, technology, innovative, and the use of new materials. Now, we are moving on to the examples of the UK's modern architecture to better understand what modernism is. First will be the Barbican Estate. The Barbican Estate in London is a vast residential complex that exemplifies the brutal style of architecture, characterized by its heavy use of concrete and bold angular forms. Next will be the Shard Skyscraper, a towering glass and steel structure that is one of the most iconic buildings in London's skyline. And lastly will be the Delaware Pavilion Baxter-on-Sea. The dramatic pavilion of concrete, steel and glass was a sanatorium by the sea for ordinary people to enjoy a few hours of rest and relaxation. Now let's compare the differences between old architecture in the UK and nowadays. First, old architecture in the UK was based on local availability, durability, and aesthetic qualities like timber and stone, while modern construction are based on strength, transparency, versatility, and the ability to create light-filled spaces using materials such as steel, glass, and concrete. Old UK architecture was known for its rich and decorative style, while contemporary architecture in the UK is characterized by simplicity, functionality, and minimalism. Third is how building techniques have advanced significantly due to new technologies and materials, resulting in more energy efficient, environmentally friendly, and cost-effective buildings. Fourth is how old architecture was designed to serve specific purposes, while contemporary architecture is more diverse and emphasizes sustainability and energy efficiency. And lastly, UK architecture has shifted from reflecting the social hierarchy and the status of its owner to focusing on social utility and the needs of the wider community. Okay, we have discussed all there is about UK's architecture, from the definition, history, examples, and the differences. Now to sum up the video, overall, architecture in the UK has been shaped by a rich and diverse history, with each architectural period and style reflecting the cultural, social, and economic context of its time. The country's built environment continues to evolve, with architects and designers creating innovative and sustainable spaces that respond to the need of contemporary society. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the stunning architecture of the United Kingdom. From the historic grandeur of castles and cathedrals to the modern marvels of cutting-edge design, the UK offers a rich and diverse landscape of architectural wonders. We hope you enjoy this glimpse into the beauty and history of some of the UK's most iconic structures. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.